everyone. Welcome to Library. Thanks for coming to read with me. I wanted to talk with you guys about Earth Day, which is April 22nd. And we celebrate Earth Day to problem solve ways to help our Earth be better, how we can protect our Earth, and make life better for us as well on Earth. And this book is kind of a good way to talk about some of that stuff. It's called All That Trash, and it's the story of the 1987 garbage barge and our problem with stuff, written by Megan McCarthy. And we use up all this stuff and we just throw it away. And few of us ever think about what becomes of that stuff after we're done with it, after it gets picked up. This is an interesting story that you may want to pay attention to. All That Trash, the story of the 1987 garbage barge and our problem with stuff. The year was 1987, known for a speedy white car, a boxy-looking computer, big hair, and a news story about tons of trash that wouldn't go away. The grand adventure began with an idea by Lowell Harrelson, who got word that a New York landfill was almost out of room. Harrelson had a solution. He would take New York's trash far, far away and solve all its garbage problems. Harrelson agreed to take 3,186 tons of trash from New York's almost full landfill to Islip. The trash at this landfill came from New York City and Long Island. First, he rented a barge to carry the garbage. Second, he got a tugboat and crew to tow the barge. Third, he found a place to dump it. Welcome to North Carolina, State Line, Union County. Harrelson's plan was revolutionary: to let the steaming, oozing heap of garbage decompose, thus creating methane gas and then energy. The methane gas is captured in underground wells. A vacuum pulls the gas through a pipe system. The collected gas is burned, which powers a generator where mechanical energy turns into electrical energy. Then the electricity travels to a transformer where it is changed from high voltage electricity to lower voltage electricity. And at last, the electricity goes to power lines and then to your home. As soon as the barge docked in North Carolina, the trouble began. A local reporter, looking for a good story, flew over the barge. On the 6 o'clock news that evening, the barge's presence was announced. Thanks to the report, an environmental official went snooping, and that's when he observed medical waste on the barge. Horrified, North Carolina officials obtained a court order declaring that the garbage could not be dumped in their state. Off went the break of dawn. Apparently on its way to Alabama, Harrelson received a warning by phone indicating that Alabama did not have room for his trash. Workers at the state docks were told to keep a lookout. It was clear that the garbage was not welcome in Alabama. Next, the barge moved on toward Mississippi. The garbage, however, was not welcome there either, so it floated over to Louisiana. Louisiana thought it was so important that Harrelson not leave his garbage in their state that they hand-delivered him a letter. The letter stated that Harrelson could not unload his garbage in the state of Louisiana. Obviously, the garbage was not welcome there. So first he went to Islip, then to Morehead City in North Carolina. Then he went to Alabama, Mississippi, Louisiana. A local port authority sent a boat out to guard the barge and tugboat. I think that they, port authority officials, were worried about at first was that maybe the boat towing the barge might take off and leave the barge here, said a spokesperson. Well, by now the barge was infested with flies, black ooze dripping from its bales. Ugh, gross. The garbage barge was to remain at the mouth of the Mississippi until a solution could be found. When night fell, the patrol boat took a break from its guard duty, and that's when, the break of dawn, the tugboat and the garbage barge disappeared. What we're trying to find out now is if anybody knows just where it went, said a Louisiana state official. Reporters tried to get Harrelson on the phone. His wife said that he was out of town. Where was the barge? Finally, the barge was spotted, floating in circles in the Gulf of Mexico. The mayor of Grand Isle in Louisiana said, probably with some relief, wherever this stuff goes, it's going to be somebody else's problem. And it was. The barge moved farther south until it arrived in Mexican waters. Being both offended and disgusted, Mexico reminded the United States of its agreement between the two countries, banning the movement of toxic waste. They are turning us into their very own garbage dump, wrote a Mexican newspaper. And for good reason. Mexico sent out its navy, 4 ships, 2 planes, and a helicopter. The garbage was not welcome in Mexico. Well, where would it go? Some people thought it might go back to New York, but instead, it stopped in Belize, which is a small country in Central America. A spokesman for the government said, the idea of us buying that garbage is laughable. The country's defense force was swiftly sent to keep a lookout for the unwanted trash. Nobody wanted it. That is, until a business owner in possession of a tiny island in the Bahamas called Little San Salvador had an idea. Papers wrote that he wanted to use the garbage to build up the island and then plop his resort on top. The business owner said it was going to be a fantastically beautiful island that everyone will want to see. Or not. The Bahamian government did not like this idea one bit. It also sent out its defense force. The barge moved on. Where would it go next? Days later, the break of dawn was spotted towing the garbage to the Florida Keys. Residents of the Keys were alarmed. They feared that the garbage would pollute their sunny beaches and ruin their colorful coral reefs. Florida citizens wanted nothing to do with all that trash. Federal environmental agents investigated. They zipped up white protective suits and snapped on protective breathing masks. They picked through the contents looking for hazardous material. The break of dawn's first mate called the suits ridiculous. He added, it's just ordinary garbage. Reporters observed the following items: magazines, clothing, tires, vacuum cleaner hoses, cardboards, carpet. It was determined that there was nothing toxic on the barge. Still, the garbage was not welcome in Florida. Florida has a sensitive and delicate environment and its own waste disposal problems, said the governor. The quicker they get that sucker out of here, the better off we'll be, captain of the charter boat in Florida. I think he needs to chug along. We are the jewel of Florida, said the mayor. When asked what St. Pierre wanted to do once on dry land, he said, take a good bath. And Mr. Harrelson said, I'm just going to wait and see what happens. By now, the barge had received a lot of attention. Television anchors had plenty to say. Floridians don't think it's so funny, said Tom Brokaw. Bob Schiffer says, it's become something of a national joke. Dan Rather said, the most watched load of garbage in the memory of man. Peter Jennings said, no one we know is particularly fond of taking out the garbage. How about the prospect of not being able to get rid of it at all? And Jennifer McLogan, the barge has quickly become a symbol of the country's growing problems with trash. Finally, after almost 2 months, it appeared that there was a solution. The Islip town supervisor announced, we're probably going to put some yellow ribbons outside the gate of the landfill to welcome our garbage back. And with that, the garbage began making its journey back to New York, back to where it came from. The plan was to dock the garbage in Queens, New York, and then drive it by truck to Islip. But as the barge made its way to New York, it looked as though the plans were once again spoiled. The deputy mayor said, I don't want it squatting here. Queens Borough president said, "We don't know what's in it. It's been sitting in the hot sun for weeks. It probably contains tropical insects and vermin." A court hearing was scheduled in Queens. It was then that a judge approved a temporary restraining order preventing those massive piles of trash from driving through Queens. Well, while in limbo, the barge docked in Brooklyn. Their city health inspectors climbed aboard and took their own samples for testing. It's crazy, isn't it? To go through all of this just to return it to the people who we took it from, said Duffy St. Pierre. Remember, now he's the captain of all this, and he's been with this garbage for 2 months. And then Harrelson said, "We're trying to keep a sense of humor about this to keep me from getting angry." Then more experts arrived. There was the toxicologist, environmental specialists, solid waste specialists, the vermin specialists, and for several days they picked through the trash. Finally, the health commissioner had an announcement. "We did not find any conditions presenting a health hazard, and there were no distinctive odors. Even the rodent specialist said there was no rodents." Still, the barge had a court order not to unload its garbage. Police boats were assigned the unwanted duty of babysitting it. "It's a pain in the neck," said a harbor policeman. And the captain, with all the bugs and flies around him, said, "We like to go ashore. We're only human." So as the garbage bobbed in the water, waiting for a place to dump its decaying trash, word spread of its long journey. People wanted to see the trash. Tourists got a kick out of seeing it. A popular talk show host of the 1980s, Phil Donahue, leaped at the opportunity to do something dramatic. He climbed aboard the barge and reported atop the trash, microphone in hand. He was then photographed jumping into the garbage below. Finally, a judge ordered that the barge's restraining order be lifted. "Time is of essence. Therefore, I urge the city, state, and all concerned to get on the ball." Unfortunately, the Islip town supervisor who had offered to take the garbage changed his mind. Now he offered to take only half of the 3,186 tons. "Haul it to the Gracie Mansions," he said sarcastically. Meanwhile, the Break of Dawn was told that it could tow the barge to New Jersey, next to the George Washington Bridge. Only New Jersey didn't want it anywhere near its state either. A New Jersey senator sailed out to the barge. "It stinks," he remarked. Meanwhile, Greenpeace activists left a message. "Next time, try recycling," from Greenpeace. By now, the barge had been floating in the ocean for 5 months and traveled more than 6,000 miles. Finally, a judge ruled that the trash should be burned. Men in white suits and white masks used pitchforks to pick up the piles. Then it was burning in big ovens. "Good riddance," remarked the sanitation commissioner. And that is what happened to the then 3,186 tons of trash. That was now 400 tons of ash. True story, my friends. So, I think this is incentive for all of us to continue composting what we can, recycling what we can, and just using what we need. Don't waste if you can help it. Happy Earth Day, everyone. There's some facts here about the Break of Dawn and the barge facts, recycling facts if you want to follow that. And there's some more. And there's a bibliography of all the resources, the sources that the author used to write this book. So consider that next time you throw away something. Thanks for reading with me. Bye, everyone.